Alrighty, let's get our teeth into, thanks to the wonderful team at Green Works, of course, Australia's ultimate battery-powered garden brand. I need one of these. I need the yard. I need just a little handy one. I don't have to pull on, yank on the cord thing. St Kilda and Fremantle tonight. But just quickly give me a glossary of the Essendon 3-point win over North Melbourne.
They were too good in the first quarter, the Bombers. That was the difference in the game. It was all North Melbourne after that. And finally, we saw North Melbourne's defence hold up. It was one of their best games in terms of total score against. They dominated the clearances. Their midfield did their part, but they still couldn't get the win. They are a losing team at this point in time. They had their chances. We know Essendon had a number of injuries and they only had one at the end of the game on the bench, and Todd Goldstein, of course, had a big game against Tristan Cherry, who's one of the best rucks in the competition, but they couldn't get it. But for the Bombers, pretty important, led by their skipper, Zach Merritt. He was enormous with 35 disposals, 9 score involvements, and just some big moments in the last quarter. Yep. When the game's on the line, you need someone to stand up, and he does it all the time.
Should he have been tagged? David King was calling him for to be tagged.
Well, they called for him to be tagged at three-quarter time, but the momentum was all with North Melbourne at that stage, and things were working in the midfield because they were dominated clearances. If you take one out of that structure, it plays a part. But, you know, he was just harder and tougher, and on the outside was able to win a fair bit of ball. 10
hours and 15 minutes and 20 seconds before the bounce of tonight's game, St Kilda versus Fremantle. O'Connell, Philippou in. Hugh Boxall from Claremont Football Club. Good on you, Hughie. And out go Wood, Jones and Keeler. Luke Jackson in for Oscar McDonald at Freo.
First time we've heard Justin Longmuir talk about Luke Jackson, the ruckman, this week. That's suggesting that he might get more minutes and that he was their best player as a ruck. So potentially they're coming around to him being more of a ruckman. Darcy's going to have to spend a bit more time forward, and that combo is going to be a big watch, I reckon, now that they're both fit to see how it works. If they play like last week with the pressure, the contested ball, and their forward handball game, they win this game easily. And I think Fremantle fans should start to expect that they win these games easily. But given what we've been through in recent times, when you come up on Friday nights, they haven't been great on the big stage in the last 2 or 3 years, and against teams that have had pressure put on throughout the week, and that's been St Kilda. We know Ross will have something up his sleeve. They will tag. Windhag has been that tag up. Who will he go with, Sarong or Brayshaw? I think now with Brayshaw's form, it's not just as easy as go to Sarong, so I think it'll be one of the two.
Could he go to Johnson after his 2-vote performance in the...
You're pretty happy with that. So we talked about Matthew Johnson throughout the game, and you put him in the votes, and I get the feeling you copped a bit of scrutiny for that, and then it's always nice to just see that the coaches gave him 4 votes. Not quite as many as Caleb Sarong, but I thought it was a good performance from him. His toughness was sensational. Philippou comes back in. He makes a difference, but he's not going to be great first up. I think it's this simple for Fremantle. Stop Jack Higgins and Freo win. He's kicked 20 goals. Jack Higgins, 20 goals.
I said at the start of the year a small forward would be the leading goal kicker and got laughed out of the room.
Yeah, Paul Curtis has been up there too with 18.
He's small forward?
Probably not. Well, because he's around the other guys, he probably plays that role. But is it Chapman? Chapman gets the role on Jack Higgins.
All righty. McNeil and Treloar in. Treloar first game for the year.
Straight back in Treloar.
Oh, I know.
That's a mistake.
Hines and Dolan, they're big outs because the kids have been informed. Johannes, another West Australian, plays his 200th game. Logan Evans and Lorenz come in for Port. Moraes and Sin go out. Sam Palpepper 150. This game's in Ballarat. Will be one of the smallest crowds in AFL history because of the ground being redone.
They're pretty good there, the Western Bulldogs, aren't they? They don't lose in Ballarat. Cold conditions normally. Port Adelaide have been improved, but loving the midfield combination, and it's not revolving around Marcus Bontempelli. Yep, he spent some time in there, but Fraser, we saw his improvement again last week, and Ed Richards the other one. Now you throw back Treloar. That might... The reason that I say don't bring him straight back in, it just might ruin the mix they've had in recent times, but they'll be too strong for Port Adelaide.
All righty, let's go to the next game, which is Adelaide hosting Carlton, the Adelaide Oval. Butts, Fogarty, Smith and Berry all in for Adelaide. Murray, Draper, Hinge and Crouch, lots of injuries at Adelaide. Young, Doherty and Cowan in for Carlton. Silvani, Zach Williams and Cottrell go out.
I'm going to tip the upset here. I think Carlton are just rolling nicely. They need another big scalp, and this is it. I wasn't overly impressed with Adelaide last week. In fact, they were very disappointed. They belted up around the midfield, and if you look at Carlton, their strength is that midfield, led by George Hewitt. He's the number one midfielder for them at the moment. Sam Walsh back to his very best, and Paddy Cripps certainly does his thing. And Adam Chera, too, having a good season now that he's got his body right. Can the forwards do it 2 weeks in a row? I think they can. I think they're going to cause an upset.
Second best game of the round is this one. This is MCG on Saturday night.
What's the best one?
The best one is the last game of the round. Gold Coast, Brisbane. Moore, Cox and Schultz in. I should go with Schultz, Cox and Moore in, as opposed to Howe, McStay and Sullivan. Duncan comes in, thank you, you finally got it, and Stewart goes out injured. Duncan 22 in.
Duncan's back in?
Yep.
Is that right? They've done a pretty good job, the Cats, in sort of managing some of those older players out of the side. And, we reflect sometimes back on other sides that leave their champions for too long. And one of them's been still side bottom.
Yeah. He's
been left for too long and he's playing career best football. He's been amazing through the midfield, straight back in the guts. I like what Collingwood are doing. I'm a believer, Tim, that this team, led by their defensive efforts and, of course, their brilliance through the midfield led by Nick Dacos, that they are going to challenge and they'll beat Geelong. Yeah,
I totally agree. All right, the last game of the Saturday fixtures involves the West Coast Eagles right here. You and I will be alongside each other. 18th plays 15th. Bo Allen, finally we get to see him, of course, been unwell. Tim Kelly.
Tim Allen? That's a show off the...
Neighbour.
Yeah.
What was that? Home Improvement, thank you. Hello, neighbour. Tim Kelly, Bo Allen, Tyler Brockman in for Dewar, Long and Davis. Melksham and Daniel Turner in for Fullerton and Clayton Oliver for mental health reasons. He's not coming to Perth.
Yeah, good to see Tim Kelly back. I thought it was time for Tyrell Dewar to have a rest. He started the season really well, but his last 3 weeks have been pretty average. Surprised with the omission of Hamish Davis. I thought he was building something nice. And even with Tom Gross, I'm surprised by the move when Tom showed a bit in the midfield, and then he's lost his position. But that's his prerogative down there at the West Coast Eagles. No Clayton Oliver. I don't think that has a big effect because he hasn't been the Clayton Oliver of old. The big watch here is Max Gawn's dominance. Lloyd Meek broke the Hawthorn hit-out record last week against Matt Flynn. What is Max going to do?
And Flynn wasn't the worst player.
No, he wasn't.
He wasn't the worst.
But what is Max going to do this week? He is in career best form
it's up to the guys
Max.
At the ground level. It's up to Tim and Kelly to pull his finger out and make a statement tomorrow night.
Petrarca, Pickett, Fordyce, I think will do the damage. Harley Reid, your boy, dominated this fixture last year. 20 disposals, 2 goals. Does Viney just quieten him down early in the game? Oscar Allen back in defence. The right call for mine. Yeah,
and I'm tipping West Coast.
Really?
Yeah, I'm confident. I've got an air of confidence about what they can do tomorrow.
So you're saying Simon Goodwin's time at Melbourne is
No,
up?
I'm not saying that.
Well, that's what it means.
No, I don't care what it means. I'm just talking about West Coast, and I think West Coast could be a little bit damp underfoot. And I'm looking forward to Bo Allen making his debut.
I'm debuting this weekend.
Thanks to Greenworks
I'm
Australia.
debuting this weekend.
Okay, you've missed it once, you've missed it twice. Australia's ultimate battery-powered garden brand. Sydney take on GWS. I'm looking forward to the Sunday fixtures. They're absolute crackers. And, of course, their fixtures or their teams have to be finalised today to get a better look. Sydney are 14th. Dean Cox has got some problems there trying to get his stars back involved. And GWS were disappointing last week. Wicks, Sheldrick and Hamling in for Sydney. No outs at this stage. Delana, Grzuski, Cal Brown, Fonte and Leah Connorstone, Josh Kelly go out.
Giants have to win. They have to bounce back. That would be 3 losses in a row. They've been very, very poor, but I reckon they would have had some home troops this week. Sydney the same, but Sydney have been having home truths for the last couple of weeks. They do have too many injuries at the moment. It's amazing how much they miss Errol Goulden, just that third midfielder that kicks it nicely.
Still not getting the best out of Chad Warner either.
Played better on the weekend, didn't he?
Marginally, yep. Okay, the lineups for this one. This is, of course, Hawthorn take on Richmond. It'll just be a matter of the margin, I'd imagine. Ramsden, Jai Sarong, Bruce McGuinness and Giath are in. Amon and Scrimshaw go out injured. Bolter, Bauer and Sonsi in for the Tigers.
55 points the margin, Tim.
Yep, minimum. Hawthorn will be angry because I don't think they played very well last week, but still got the job done. This is the one we're looking forward to. We're going to chat with Dean Solomon very, very shortly as well. And I talk of the Gold Coast Suns going to the Gabba and they take on Brisbane. Brisbane have dominated. They've won 11 of their last 12 against the Gold Coast Suns, but this looks like it's going to be the real deal. It's at 5:20 our time. And again, the confirmed lineup still to come. But Payne, Duday, McKenna, McLaughlin and Fort in for Brisbane. Morris and Lohman go out. Fiorini knocking up, getting the footy in the lower levels. Moyle and Clohessy.
Going to stick with Brisbane at home. They were good last week against St Kilda. Gold Coast were improved, but I think Brisbane's still big brother in that town.